And we're back. Welcome to the Fantasy Forecast with Grindberg and Biggs. I am Biggs. He is Grindberg and Schultze. Today we're talking about breakout wide receivers. Oh, yeah. Guys who are going to break out. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Schultze from the top rope. All right. So let's get into it. Producer. Fantasy Forecast. Welcome, everybody, to the Fantasy Forecast with Grindberg and Biggs on the Fantasy Football Advice Network. This is episode 2 of our 3-part series of breakout positional players in redraft fantasy football leagues. Those would be your family leagues, beat your children, your work leagues, murder your coworkers, and all of those that are found on CBSSports.com, Yahoo, ESPN, NFL.com. Etc., 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 or etc. ellipsis if you're into brevity. If you don't know what brevity means, Google. All right, Mike, we're talking about breakout wide receivers. We're not talking about Tyreek Hill. We're not talking about Justin Jefferson or CeeDee Lamb. We're talking about guys who are going to outplay what they have done last year or in their careers, what have you.
So guys like Mike Evans?
Checks notes. No.
Mike Evans broke out 11 years ago?
Yeah, 10 seasons ago. So, we're talking about guys who, maybe this will be their first 1,000-yard season. Maybe this will be their first double-digit touchdown season. Maybe this will be their first top 24 wide receiver finish in fantasy. But breakouts nonetheless. My number 3 of my number 3, who is my number one, my first, who's the number 3, is Buffalo Bills wide receiver Curtis Samuel. Now, Curtis Samuel is an old, like me, although not as old as me, and he's coming off a very eye-opening. That's the best way to describe it. An eye-opening season with Washington last season, in which he was paired with Jahan Dotson as the kind of the wide receiver 2 set behind Terry McLaurin, who was the Commanders' number 1, and Curtis Samuel in Jahan Dotson's fall off, and he developed a relationship with Sam Howell and had a much, much better year than anybody saw coming. This year, he heads to a Buffalo Bills wide receiver room that is in dire need of somebody with some experience and also puts quality on the field. And the Buffalo Bills have 6 or 7 guys. The potentially best of them has no experience. The rest of them have plenty of experience, but aren't necessarily as good as Curtis Samuel. So I think that at a certain point this year, it's going to be apparent to everyone that Curtis Samuel is the best wide receiver on that Buffalo Bills team. He and Josh Allen will have developed the best rapport of the wide receiver room with the quarterback, and he will be the wide receiver 1 in Buffalo next season when you look at finishing fantasy points per game. My number 2 is Christian Kirk. Christian Kirk of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jacksonville Jaguars.
Actually, the J is soft. It's the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Duval. But being over here on the West Coast, which is basically North Mexico, sometimes the J in my brain becomes a ha. Christian Kirk, I think, is going to have a really good year. Wasn't so hot last year. Calvin Ridley took away a bunch of targets. We liked to talk about when Calvin Ridley and Christian Kirk weren't on the field at the same time, what their performances were like. When they were on the field at the same time, what their performances were like. Zay Jones was also in the building, but Zachariah has moved on to other pastures. They did bring in Brian Thomas Jr., who I think he's not quite as good as people think he is. More of a Quentin Johnston type fellow. And they brought in Gabe Davis, who is essentially senior Brian Thomas. So I think that, again, the cream is going to rise to the top, and that cream will be named Christian Kirk. But let's get Schultze's take, because he is a Jacksonville Jaguars fan addict.
Yeah, so the Christian Kirk call, I think, is great. But first, I got to get on you, man. Put some respect on the name. You're talking about breakouts, no 1,000 yards, no wide receiver 2 seasons. We're talking the wide receiver 11 from 2 years ago. So first
I know that, but that's why I included maybe didn't have quite as good a year last year, which would technically.
You're right. I just had to give you some shit for that.
Well, I mean, he missed 6 games last year, so I think that, you know, that pace he was on, he was still targeted quite a bit. I think he averaged 8 targets per game, if I'm not mistaken, last year. So I think that, you know, he was on pace to continue that streak regardless. So, like, let's see. Like, I mean, I'm on board with this Christian Kirk breakout, because they didn't add anything other than Brian Thomas, who I don't think as a rookie is going to come in and. Oh, yeah, fair enough. I mean, but at the same time, I'm on your side here, Biggs, with they're going to have somebody that is going to be Trevor Lawrence's kind of release valve there amongst Evan Ingram, who's probably going to see 150 targets this year. 150 targets, right? I guess that's what I'm thinking.
And we're not doing breakout tight ends. Otherwise, I'd have included Brenton Strange.
Yeah. So, like, Chelsea, get back in on here and give us your real thought.
I think one of the biggest things that doesn't get talked about here is your chemistry with Trevor to Kirk. This is now their 3rd year going together. Same with Ingram, but when you need a big 3rd down, it's going to Kirk. Like, for the most part, when he's on the field, he's been their like go-to dude. Actually, really surprising stat I just saw. He led the league in, I believe, it was yards per route run on fades. Christian Kirk.
There you go.
Which
you heard it from
really
Schultze,
wild.
The only one looking at Christian Kirk's stats.
You ain't wrong. But yeah, so I think he's going to either lead the team in targets or be very close to Ingram. The speed outside is just going to open up so much room underneath. Brian Thomas and Gabe Davis, the speed between those two is far beyond what Ridley and Zay Jones brought. And that's just going to open up space for those two underneath. And that's where this offense loves to operate. You see the Peterson offense utilize those crossers, like a lot of zone beater stuff like that. And then even Kirk has been huge against man from the slot. So, yeah, I think all wheels up. I mean, and if you're into Trevor Lawrence this year, you should be hugely in on Kirk and Ingram with him.
All right. Thanks, Schultze. Go away. All right. Mike, where's your 2? What are your 2? Who are your 2? Let's get on with it.
Let's get on with it. Yeah, we've had enough of this Jags talk. It's fled our airwaves for way too long. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about some teams that I'm in on. And I'm really aspiring to get onto this type of situation, like the Dontayvion Wicks. He's a wide receiver that flashed potential in his debut season. He passed the eye test and turned a lot of heads with his route running. He is commanded a 23% target per route run. He is 2.3 yards per route run. The guy has been incredible on his rookie season, and that's a really big stat that you really got to look at, especially for breakouts. And seeing that 2.31 yards per route run is an indicator that his breakout season is about to happen. And I know there's a lot of variables with Christian Watson coming back, being healthy with his hamstrings. I don't buy it. Dontayvion Wicks is going to be a guy that we're going to be looking at this time next year in a sophomore season. He's going to establish himself as Love's go-to option, or one of them. With the luck, he could emerge as their top receiving threat in Green Bay, and I'm just really, really liking what I see there. I see some really good things out of Dontayvion Wicks out of his first season, and he could be a real big breakout in 2024. My next one is Another second-year player, and I talked about his quarterback on the last show as being a guy that is going to have a really good breakout season, and this is a second-year guy, and that's Josh Downs. He had a promising rookie season, showcasing his skills as an elite separator with 68 receptions and 771 yards. Despite having this strong performance, he struggled to find the end zone, recording only 2 touchdowns. However, his production dipped after sustaining a knee injury. Nonetheless, Downs played the potential from weeks 1 to 8, and when Anthony Richardson was in the lineup, he was getting targeted a lot more, and I think that's going to be more of what's going to happen. Anthony Richardson is going to be relying on his second look quite a bit this year, especially in the scrambling situation, and I think that Josh Downs, being the separator he is going to be in the area that Anthony Richardson is going to be a look, and I think he's poised to be the number one target and have a breakout season in 2024. So I like Josh Downs and Dontayvion Wicks as two guys that are going to break out.
All right. Mike, have you ever played poker?
I play poker, yes.
You ever played Texas Hold'em poker?
Absolutely.
You know how when you're getting down to like the last of your chips in a cash game, like say you have like 2 or 3 blinds left, and you just start going all in on every deal. Just like there's really nothing left to win or lose. You just keep pushing everything in until something happens. That is the relationship between this show and Los Angeles Chargers rookie wide receiver Ladd McConkey. We are going to keep putting our chips all in until we either win or go home. That's it. Ladd McConkey is a force to be reckoned with when you break down the analytics, and we've talked about this before. In terms of first downs per route run out of the 2024 rookie class, he was number 3. In terms of yards per route run against zone coverage, Ladd McConkey ranked 3rd. In terms of yards after catch per reception, he was 4th. In terms of missed tackles forced per reception, he was 4th. When you aggregate all of the advanced analytics in the 2024 rookie wide receiver class, there was only one wide receiver in the class that was ahead of Ladd McConkey in the aggregated statistics. And when we look at the most important of those statistics, yards per route run and yards after the catch per route run, and weigh those as the most important. Malik Neighbors is in a class by himself. Ladd McConkey slots right in there at number 2. And everybody's favorite Marvin Harrison Jr. is number 6 on that list. Unfortunately, the guys between Ladd McConkey and Marvin Harrison Jr. don't necessarily have the situational advantage that McConkey or Marvin Harrison Jr. have. Ladd McConkey is going to enter the Chargers preseason having created the best relationship in that wide receiver room with Justin Herbert, with the possible exception of Josh Palmer, because Josh Palmer has been with Justin Herbert for a long time. However, Ladd McConkey is a better receiver than Josh Palmer. Ladd McConkey is going to be open every time Justin Herbert puts his eyes down the field, and it's going to be a match made in heaven in John Harbaugh's 18 pass per game air attack. We're not looking for Quentin Johnston except for as, a wrinkle. We're not looking for Josh Palmer except as maybe, like a safety valve or a second option or whatever. Every time Justin Herbert is going to throw the ball, he's going to find Ladd McConkey. We're in OTAs, and I am confident in saying that, and I'm going to say it every single time I talk about Ladd McConkey until it's proven to not happen. So stick with the show because he is my number 1 breakout spotlight shown.
Yeah. Ladd McConkey. Just think of though, Harbaugh's offense is known to run the ball quite a bit, but they've had a prolific defense in Michigan. So think of the Chargers offense needing to score points in the second half of game because they're not quite there yet. They're not quite that formidable. So I can see the Chargers being in a lot of situations where they're going to need to throw the ball quite a bit in the second half, and Lad McConkey is going to be that beneficiary. I love this call, Biggs. You know I love Lad McConkey. Dads for lads. Hashtag let's go.
Hashtag
And
dads for that.
and it's going to go down that way, folks. Just mark our words. Our chips are in. All in on Lad McConkey.
Watch this space. And also,
Yeah.
I love yours. Go ahead and tell us your shine your light, Mike.
I'm shining my light because flowers need light to grow, and they also need rain, and that's what the forecast brings. It brings all sorts of. I love it. I love it. Like that just came to me. It was good. So as a rookie, he led the Ravens in air yards and target shares, accumulating over 1,000 receiving yards, 6 touchdowns in 18 games when Mark Andrews was healthy and active in the lineup from week 2 to 10. Flowers averaged only 8.2 points per game with a 22% target share. When the tight end missed, Flowers posted a 24% target share, 13 points per game, and now Andrews will be back and healthy to start 2024. So why would I think Flowers would just go back and be, what he was prior to Andrews' injury? I don't think that's going to happen. Flowers quickly established himself as Lamar Jackson's go-to receiver in Baltimore. Flowers is already able to command a 24% target share as a rookie. That was 20th in the league. All things considering, Flowers had a pretty good rookie season. Flowers crushed the 500-yard benchmark for rookie wide receivers as a threshold that is very predictive of what future NFL wide receiver success is. Flowers caught 77 passes for 858 yards. Since 2011, there have only been 40 wide receivers to reach 800 yards in their rookie season. That's a pretty big task to ask for, and Flowers hit that as a slot wide receiver, mind you. Flowers as a player will only get better. The Ravens brought in not only anybody to compete with him at wide receiver, but they also brought in Derrick Henry, who was going to get them in the scoring position quite a bit. Flowers is going to continue to build off his nice rookie season and have himself an even better 2024. And in my eyes, making him a surefire breakout in 2024.
Interesting. We brought up 6 slot receivers?
Yeah. It's crazy how the game has changed.
Yes. Schulte, why don't you tell everybody where to find us?
Oh, on Twitter, there's this really cool website called twitter.com. Make sure you type in twitter.com. Once again, it's Twitter.
You finally changed the URL. I will not say what it is.
It used to be something else, and now it's twitter.com. So you can find us there.
No. It is not twitter.com anymore.
.com, not twitter.com anymore.com.
Yeah, correct. Type in your Google machine, not Twitter anymore.com. All right. As always, like the show, subscribe, hit the bell so you get notified when our next episode drops. Reach out in the comments. Find us on Twitter at BigBonedFFB, at FFConnect99, and at SCHU1TZY, because you're watching the Fantasy Football Advice Network, and we hope you win. Bye-bye.
Bye.